I'm going to be going over the practice exam for the second exam. Here's question number 1. Which of the following are the control structures listed in Chapter 2? A. Sequence, conditional branch, loop. B. Sequence, selection, repetition. C. Loops, function call and return, try, catch, and throw. D. Conditional branch, repetition, sequence. And if we look back here at Chapter 2 in the control structures section, page 15, it talks about the 5 different categories of control structures, and that's what he's talking about. Sequence, selection, repetition, function call and return, try, catch, and throw. So now, if we go back here, we see that B is the one that has all of the correct control structures. The other ones just have maybe 1 or 2 that are actually control structures. So sequence, selection, repetition is 3 out of the 5. What is a definition of a control structure? If you go back to Chapter 2, right here in this sentence where it's got some italicized print there, it says they are called controlled structures because they control the order in which the computer executes statements. So that's the answer to number 2. Number 3 here says, given the following JavaScript code, what will the computer output for the user to see? So if we look here, it starts off, it declares sales and initializes it to 700, and it declares rate. And then it checks to see if sales is less than 300, and since it isn't, then we go to the else statement. And then it checks to see if sales is less than 600. And since it's not, that it's going to jump into this else statement. And then it's going to check to see if sales is less than 1,000, and it is. And so the user will see this as the rate instead of the alert box. Okay, number 4 here says, the following if statement contains an error. Rewrite it so that it is correct. Assume the variable BAL already exists and holds a valid number. So since this if statement has 2 statements after it, it means that it needs to have the curly braces around these 2 statements. If there was just 1 statement, then you wouldn't need to put the curly braces around it. Number 5 here says the following if statement contains an error. Rewrite it so that it's correct. Assume the variable growth already exists and holds a valid number. So if you look here, it's got this semicolon, and we don't need semicolons in control structures, only statements such as these. Okay, now 6. The following if statement contains a logic error, not a syntax error. Rewrite it so that it is correct. Assume the variable x already exists and holds a valid number. So here it says if x equals 8 and if x is equal to 9. Well, a variable cannot hold 2 different numbers at the same time. So what it was really trying to do was to say that x had to be equal to 8 or it had to be equal to 9. So you'd replace this AND statement with the 2 pipes, like here, to make the OR statement. Okay, number 7. Given the variables for x equals 2, y equals 6, and z equals 2, what is the value of this statement? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste this into Notepad so that I can show you the steps to figure this out. Let's erase that. So first off, it says, is x equal to 4? No, it's not, so that's a false. And then we'll copy the rest of this. So then when we look at here, is y equal to 1? No, it's not. It's equal to 6. So that's a false. But then we've got this not sign in front of the false, so that flips it to be a true. And then we look at this one, and is z equal to 0? No, it's not. It's 2, so this is a false. So when you have a true or a false, then you'll have a true, because either one of them was true. So one or the other. You had at least one that was true. And then if you have an and sign with false and true, then it's a false, because they're not both the same. So that's the answer to number 7. Number 8 here says, use De Morgan's law, not parentheses A or B parentheses is the same as not A and not B, to rewrite and simplify this statement. So I went to the exam and looked at the question, and what I have here isn't quite exactly what the question on the exam is, in the sense of what it needs. You need to do an extra. The one on the exam has an extra step that you need to do. So this will be more. This will be closer to what the exam question is. So we need to actually do this statement here. And what you need to do first is, if you look at De Morgan's law, you'll see that this right here with the and the not looks pretty similar to this part of De Morgan's law, this second part, and so, or the other side. So what we can do is we can make it become this. So, because they're equivalent, right? So not, and then it has the parentheses around it, then GPA is greater than 3.5, or, because we're just rewriting this, right? Credits is greater than or equal to 32. Okay, so that'd be your next one. So we made this, which was this side, now be this, which is this side, the equivalent side. But even that needs to be simplified more. And so what you need to do is what this wants is, it wants you to say, okay, I don't want something, that you don't pass if the GPA is greater than, well, this says I need the GPA to be greater than 3.5, but then the not says I don't want it to be that. And so what you'd want to do here is say, okay, well, what's the opposite of GPA is greater than 3.5 would be, then GPA is less than 3.5, right? And to double check that we did it correctly, let's say that GPA is 3.5. So is GPA right here 3.5 less than 3.5? It isn't. But in this case, where it said, is GPA greater than 3.5? No, it's not, but it was negated. So it's a not in front of it. So what's going to make it so that this returns a true, not a false? Well, then you'd put in an equal sign, and now you've got it to be this, to return the same answer as what that returned. Then it also wants the credits not to be greater than or equal to 32. So it's the same thing. What would make it so that make this be the opposite? So the opposite is credits is less than or equal to 32. Well, if I did that and I had credits be 32, right here is credits greater than or equal to 32. Yes, it is, but they want it to be false because it negates it. So here is credits less than or equal to 32. Yes, it is, but we want it to be false. So we get rid of the equal then sign. So now is credits less than 32? No, it's not, so this will be false. So this right here gives you the same answer as if this was calculated. Okay, number 9. Given the following JavaScript code, how many times will the computer display the word STEM? Okay, I like to do, these are just basically solved best by doing desk checks on your own. So here's the problem. Oops. Okay, so we have skip here, we got N and I. So skip is 4, N is 12, and I is 0. So we go into this loop. Is I, which is 0, less than N, which is 12? Yes, it is. So it's going to come into here and alerts the word STEM, and then it's going to add on 4 to this to I, since skip is 4. Then it's going to come up here to the while loop again and say, is 4 less than 12? Yes, it is. So it's going to come in here, it's going to alert STEM, and then it's going to add 4 to STEM. So now I is 8. Come back up. Is 8 less than 12? Yes, it is. So it's going to alert STEM, and then it's going to add 4. So now it's 12. Is 12 less than 12? No, it's not. So it's going to exit the loop. And you can see up here that 3 times the loop was ran. So that'd be 3. So the answer to this is 3. 3 times STEM. 3 times that STEM is shown. So this was number 8. And this is number 9. Okay. Number 10 is similar, except we're doing a for statement instead. Okay, so we're going to have N, I, so N is 3 and I is initialized to 0. And just someone had asked me about this, but if you put var I out here, then you don't have to put the var in front of the I inside of your for statement, because you're declaring it here, but you don't have to do that. And unless the situation calls for it, you just put var in front of the I there so that it will initialize there. The only time I can think of where you would put it right here is if you wanted to use the value of I after the loop, because if it's declared out here, then anything that happens during the loop, which includes the incrementing and decrementing, then that value of I will be held on to after the for loop. But if it's declared in here, then the value of I, and then I won't exist outside of the for. So let's just check this so you know how many times caterpillar is shown. So is 0 less than 3? Yes, it is. So it's going to come in here and show caterpillar. And then it's going to come back up here and it's going to be incremented. So now I is 1. Now it's going to check the condition again. And with for loops, it's always declare and initialize the counter variable, check the condition, go inside of the loop, then increment or decrement, check the condition. Inside, increment or decrement, check the condition. It never goes and does this after the first time. So now I is 1, as we said right here. And so now is 1 less than 3? Yes, it is. So it's going to pop up caterpillar. And now I plus plus, now I is going to be 2. Is 2 less than 3? Yes, it is. Pops up caterpillar. And it's going to come up here again and add another one. So now I is 3. Is 3 less than 3? No, it's not. So it's going to exit the loop and not pop up caterpillar again. And so it popped up caterpillar 3 times. Because 1, 2, 3 times. Okay, let me go down here to number 11. And it wants you to desk check this code. So I'm going to copy and paste the code along with the table. Okay, so here it said that subtotal started at 60 and then the value of today is Tuesday. Alright, so we got the value of subtotal from the user and made it a number, and then we got today's date, the name of the day from today's date, and then we declared discount, tax, and total. And our if statement here checks to see if subtotal is greater than 50, which it is because it's 60. And then it also wants to know if today is Tuesday or if it's Wednesday. So today's Tuesday, so the if statement, the condition passes, and so we go inside of the if statement, and our discount is equal to the subtotal times 0.1, which is 10%. So our discount would be 60 times 0.1, which is 6. And then we come down here and it says that discount equals the subtotal times the rate. Let me put these on new lines. Oh, that Yeah, that was discount. Okay. Oh, this line isn't even needed. Yeah, there's an issue here. Get rid of that. Okay, so now you come down here, total equals subtotal minus discount, so that would be and discount actually needs to be initialized to 0, or it will cause a problem when it needs to be subtracted from subtotal. So subtotal minus your discount would be, in this case, 54. And then the next statement says that the tax is the total times 0.06. So 54 times 0.06 is 324. And then we find out that the total is the total is itself plus tax. So that would be 57.24 would be our answer. So yeah, there was an extra statement right there. It needed to be removed and discount needed to be set to 0. So I'll fix those mistakes on the practice exam for the next group. And then here's number 12. Got the yawns. Okay. Okay, so the problem is that there was 3 children, and 2 adults, and 1 senior. So we got those values from the text boxes and made them be numbers. And then we're going to loop through each of these different loop this number of times that each of these are set to calculate how much the total cost will be. And one thing I know for sure is that I didn't change this from last semester, and I need to delete these equal then signs because it would have gone one more time than it needed to. So if I had, having 3 here, it would have gone through 4 times, not 3 times, if I had that equal statement in there. So we start here. So is 0 less than the number of children, which is 3? Yes. Then we're going to add the total. The total was 0 right here. We're going to add the total 6. And then comes back up and then adds to itself. So that's now I is 1 less than 3. Yes, it is. And so it's going to come in and add 6 again to itself. And then it's going to come back up here, and now I is 2 less than 3. Yes, it is. So we're going to add on $6 more. 18. So then it comes up here, and now I is 3 less than 3. No, it's not. So it exits. So we did go through 3 times. Then we come here to the adult one, and we say so I is 0, so is I, which is 0, less than the number of adults, which is 2. Yes, it is. So then we're going to add on $10. Come in here and add 10. And then it's going to come up here and add 1. So now I is 0, and now adding 1 to it makes it 1. So is 1 less than 2? Yes, it is. So we're going to add $10 more right here. And then I is going to be 3 now. So is 2 now. So is 2 less than 2? No, it's not. So it exits this loop. Now we're going to come to this loop. And I is 0. So is I, which is 0 less than 1. Yes, I am. So then we add 8 to this total, which is 46. And then you come back up, and then I will now be 1. Is 1 less than 1? No, it's not. So then it exits. And so the total here that'll be outputted to the user will be 46. One more desk check. Okay. So we're going to say here, which one was this one? 12. Okay, so the vending price was 125 and the coin value was 20.25. Okay, so first here we got the vending price from the user and we got the coin value from the user. We made those numbers. And then we set the remaining due equal to the vending price. So it's 125. And then while the remaining due is greater than 0, so 125 is greater than 0, then we're going to take from that remaining due 25 cents because that's what the coin value is. So let's be $1 now. And then it writes it to the screen. Then it comes back up here. Is $1 greater than 0? Yes, it is. So then it's going to subtract another quarter. Come back up here. Is 0.75 greater than 0? Yes, it is. So then it's going to subtract another quarter right there. Is 0.5 greater than 0? Yes, it is. So it's going to subtract another quarter right here. And then is a quarter greater than 0? And yes, it is. So then it's going to subtract one more time, and it's going to be 0. Here's number 14. Write a defining table in a program that reads 2 numbers from 2 text fields. Compare the 2 numbers and output to a div either equal to, greater than, or less than, respectively. And I found this really cool tool. It's a service, and it's called CodePen.io, and it makes it so that you can write inside of here HTML, and it will automatically appear over here on the screen, and it will also run the JavaScript too. So it's faster and easier than having to go and write it up in Visual Studio Code and then running it in the browser and doing it over and over and over again, because it just automatically does it for you. So let's start off with our HTML page. We're just gonna throw one together. And I didn't put the script tags inside where they're supposed to be, which is inside the head. Okay, so I'm going to make a comment section. Oops, I lost it when I copied it. Okay, so we're going to write our defining table. So our input here says, write a defining table in a program that reads 2 numbers from 2 text fields. So 2 numbers would be our input. Compare the 2 numbers and output to a div either equal to, greater than, or less than, respectively. So we're going to say compare the 2 numbers, be our processing, and then our output will be one of these. Okay, so after now that I've written my defining table, then I go to my input and I create the HTML needed to get that input. You could write your program, well, the only not nice thing about this is it doesn't have the IntelliSense. But there might be one out there that's similar, or an alternative to this that has that. I just found this one and thought it was really neat because look on the side here, as I wrote those, they created the 2 text boxes for me. Now I'm going to give them some IDs. We'll be creative and give them some super spectacular names. And I also need a button. And I'm going to call it, I'm just going to name it compare. And see, now compares over there. And do it on click. We'll mess with that later. And I'll make this the user input interface look a little nicer. Putting some labels and stuff. And put 2 breaks so that looks a little bit nicer. Okay, so now I've got my HTML portions all done, and now I'm gonna call a function. I'm gonna just call it compare. Now what you can do is just copy that name so that you don't accidentally name it wrong. So function compare, and then inside this function we need to, number 1, get our inputs, which is those 2 numbers. So bar number 1 equals document.get element by ID and number 1. Then we need to get its value. Then we need to do the same thing for, oh, I put a space in between there. You can't name variables with spaces. Number 2. Okay, so we got the values. but we want to, after we get one, we want to convert it to be a number, and since it doesn't say whether they're going to be whole or real numbers, we're just going to do parse float. Just to be safe. So then we're just going to say number 1. So I could have put the parse float up here around this document element by ID, but I just find it's easier to do it on the separate line, so then you know that you did it and it can be seen easily. Okay. Now what we're going to want to do is, it says that we need to compare them and then figure out which one of these it goes to. So I'm going to actually create a variable to output. And I don't need to actually set it equal to an empty string because I'm not going to be using it for concatenation later on. So I'm just going to leave it like this because output will always be set when it hits one of these conditions. Okay, so I'm going to check for the first condition, which was to say if it was equal to, and I'm actually going to copy and paste that when I set my output. So if number 1 is less than number 2, then we're going to make output equal to. And then since it can't be greater than and equal to, yep, and then we're going to just put these if statements on separate. Oh, this was the less than, this should be an equal to. This is your less than. And then we're going to say that the output needs to be less than. And if you just copy and paste, you're less likely to make a mistake. One more. If number 1 is less than number 2, and now we need to get the div that has the output. And I don't know if we actually, yeah, we didn't write a div. So we need to write, I'm actually going to make this kind of fun and put this between number 1 and number 2 boxes. Let's put a div. And give it an ID. I'm just going to call it result. And it's inner HTML. Equal the output. Alright, now I'm going to run it. Greater than. Oh, I forgot to move this. So that was incorrect. But see now, I don't have to do any saving or anything, I just retype in things. So that is true, 20 is greater than 10, and then 10 is equal to 10, and then I guess 20 less than 20. So there's that one. Alright, so this last one should seem familiar. Okay, so then now I'm going to create a new pen. Alright. I copied and pasted in the instructions. Okay. Gonna move that. Just some comments. You can also use these editors that are real-time editors that are similar to this CodePen. You can type in your HTML and your JavaScript separately. This is for the JavaScript. And you can just write in your body, your input tags and texts and everything, and your button, and call a function that can be written inside of this. Makes it break up a little bit easier, and also this window has special things that make it so that JavaScript highlights and things correctly. Alright, so now we need to do our input, our processing, and our output. So our input is going to be none because it's just automatically going to know to do 5 and how far to go. And then our processing would be to multiply five by the current value of the operator. Oh, of the counter variable. And the output would be the 5 times tables. Alright, now we can write our function. Oh, oops. One little obvious thing is you gotta put a button in here at least. I'm gonna make the button say calculate, just like right there. And then I think I'm gonna put up here an H1 to write the 5 times table. Right there as a heading 1. And then the button, one click equals calc. Will be just fine. Okay, so now I'm just gonna copy and paste that name. And just copy it and paste it right there. And then I'm going to need in my body, I'm going to move this right after the header. It should be a div. Okay, output div is an ID for the div. Okay, so we need to figure out. Okay, so the best loop for this would be a for loop, because we know exactly when to start and when to stop. So for I equals, and then we need to find out what the condition and everything has to be. So we want to go to 12. One thing for sure is that since we're going to go to 1 to 12, we're not going to do 0 to 12. 0 to 12. Let's start at 1. And we need to make it equal to, or else so we'll run 12 times. We'll only do 11 because when it hits 12, it's going to say that it isn't, that it is less than 12, and that it isn't less than 12, and it won't run the loop again. So I'm going to create a variable that's going to hold the result while it loops. Let's put that as that or something. Okay, so we're going to say 5, and then the asterisk, and then I. And then we're going to create a variable out here for outputting. Let's see, that have to be an empty one because we're going to be adding on to it. Now inside the loop we need to add on to this outputting variable each multiplication fact. So we'd say outputting equals outputting plus 5 times, or a string of 5 times, and then we're going to add on to it counter, and we're going to add on to it the equal sign as a string, and then we're going to add the result. And then at the very end here, after the for loop, we're going to do we named that output div. And copy and paste the name. Then we set the inner HTML equal to outputting. So now we just need to click on calculate, and there we have it, except for I did need to put a line on each one. So if you have any questions or need some help, let me know. I wish you good luck on the test and know that you guys can do well.